to begin reading at verse number 6 down to verse 9. I'm going to give you a moment to turn there. I want you to take a look at this word that the Lord has to say to the church on this morning from Haggai chapter 2, commencing at verse 6 down to verse 9. You will find it nestled between Zephaniah and Zechariah. You'll find the minor prophecy called Haggai. The text reads on this wise. Thus says the Lord of hosts, once more, it is a little while, I will shake heaven and earth, the sea and the dry land, and I will shake all nations, and they shall come to desire of all nations, and I will fill this temple with glory, says the Lord of hosts. The silver is mine, and the gold is mine, saith the Lord of hosts. The glory of this latter temple shall be greater than the former, says the Lord of hosts. And in this place, somebody shout, in this place, I will give thee peace, says the Lord of hosts. This is the word of the Lord. Would you do me a favor and grab your neighbor by the hand and just tell them, shake well before using. Yeah, that's what I want to talk about. That's what I want to talk about this morning for the next few minutes. Shake well before using. I need your prayers. On the onset of this message, allow me to ask, have you ever seen people in their comfort zones? Our comfort zone is that area of our lives in which we feel safe, secure, and comfortable. It may involve our daily routines at home or at work, or our expectations in our leisure, or even a level of comfort that many of us feel in the house of the Lord. Once we settle into our comfort zones, it's difficult at best to get us to make changes, especially if the changes threaten our positions. Oh, brothers and sisters, we become comfortable with so many things. What you talking about, preacher? Well, we rarely change our hairstyles because we're comfortable with the present style. The decor of our houses changes when wear and tear demands it, but rarely before then. Our diet is relatively the same. Our friends are the same, and mostly everything else remains the same. I don't have to tell you, you know how it is when we get things just the way we like them. We resist any change, any effort to change them. I wish I had a witness. And for many, that also applies to their relationship with God. I've come on divine assignment to tell somebody that many are comfortable in their present state, even if they're far away from what God expects of them. Some have reached the point where they're happy that they've improved their situation, but they have no desire to uproot themselves or to make any changes. In other words, they settled into their comfort zone and they've decided to let the status quo stand. Well, I've come today on divine assignment to let you know that if you have settled our relationship with God, and that is God has to shake us up and turn us around and then replant our feet on solid ground. We rarely embrace change, and so in order to help us, God has to shake up our whole situation so that we can be used used by him. As Christians, as the people of God, we know God has great things in store for us. And we also know that at times we get too comfortable in our zones, and thus we become slack in our faith and in our service. And that's why every now and then the Lord has to shake some of us up before he can use us. And then and only then are we fit for service in his kingdom. Touch your neighbor and tell him he knows how to shake things up. As the curtain rises this morning upon this particular pericope, the focus of our attention rests on the prophet Haggai, as he tells Israel that they've become too comfortable. Their attitude is too laid back concerning the house of the Lord. The temple over there in Jerusalem has been destroyed by invading armies, and Israel's finest citizens had been taken away into captivity. When they returned, oh, brothers and sisters, they saw deplorable conditions of their homeland, and they bemoaned its decline. And yet, despite their frustration, they took no action to rebuild God's house. Instead, they focused the attention on themselves and their own prosperity. They were content as they passed by the site of the once glorious temple, and all they would do was just shake their heads and keep on walking. Haggai was specifically raised up by God to encourage the exiles who were returning from Babylon. God raised him up to encourage God's people to take hold and build. Haggai spoke to their present building effort, but he also pointed to a day in the future when the glory of the new temple would be provided by the Messiah. The people obeyed the command because they recognized that God spoke through Haggai. However, less than a month after they began, the people lost hope, and God had to renew his promise to shake things up in order to rekindle their zeal and encourage their flagging spirits. The text spoke to their present circumstance, but it spoke mostly of the coming of the Lord. According to Matthew Henry, the phrase, "I will shake the heavens and the earth and the sea and the dry land," refers to the setting up of Christ's kingdom in the world. God will once again do for his church as he did when he brought them out of Egypt. He shook the heavens and the earth at Mount Sinai with thunder and lightning and with earthquakes. He shook the sea and the dry land when lanes were made through the sea and the streams, and he fetched water out of a rock. Haggai says, "This shall be done again." Now, before Israel entered the land of promise, they were shaken and prepared in the crucible of suffering. I see something. In a larger sense, every believer, every child of God, every now and then must be shaken well to be made ready for God's use, while at the same time God shakes the world around his people to secure their blessings. Someone may be asking, why would anybody need shaking before they could be used for the Lord's service? I'm so glad you asked, for there are three good reasons why the Lord shakes us up. Anybody interested? First of all, God shakes us up to unsettle us. I'm sure some of y'all have had some medicine that was sitting in the medicine cabinet for a while. And many of the essential elements for the cure, after time settles to the bottom of the bottle, shaking that bottle up unsettles the components needed to make that medicine ready for use. Well, sometimes, touch two people and tell them sometime, we get that way. We settle in our comfort zones and we become lax. I wish I had a witness. In our spiritual lives, we become comfortable with our present level of spirituality. That's when we fail to maintain regular Bible reading. We don't pray like we used to. We go to church if we feel like it and stay at home if we please. We settle into a routine that becomes mundane, dry, and spiritually dead. That's why some of y'all ain't saying nothing this morning, because you've settled in a routine. You become dry, and some of you have become spiritually dead. All of our gifts and all of our talents, with many of us, have settled to the bottom. And to be sure, we have them. We have many talents. We have many gifts, but they're useless to God if they've settled to the bottom. And that's why every now and then God has to come and shake us up real good before he can use us for his service. You see, if he don't shake you every now and then, your service and your worship to him becomes half-hearted at best. And so every now and then, because he's blessed some of us beyond measure, you got more today than you've ever had in your life. Some of y'all wondering right now, I wish when is he gonna sit down? I got to get over there to the Golden Corral. I have a standing appointment. What's the name of the cafeteria? Yeah, got a standing. They got tables waiting over at the K&W. Your mind is on some sausage and ham and bacon and grits and eggs, and most of that stuff is filled with cholesterol. But matter not if your cholesterol is off the charts. All you want to do is settle down and get to the buffet where you can eat all that you want to eat. And so that's why every now and then God got to shake your mess up, turn you upside down and inside out, to let you know that if there be any glory and if there be any praise, don't you dare sit there and act like I ain't preaching to you. God's been good to every last one of us. And that's why I got to come and remind you every now and then. I know you got it going on, but if there be any glory, if there be any praise, let it go to Calvary. Get your neighbor by the hand, shake it like it's a salt shaker, and tell him to God be the glory for the great things he has done. And so every now and then, the Lord gotta shake us well to unsettle us. Touch your neighbor and tell him he'll shake you to unsettle you. And then secondly, God shakes us to motivate us. God shakes us to motivate us. You see, it's very easy in these times in which we live to lose your motivation, especially if our reason for ministry was not God-centered